And now we are live. Hello, everybody. It is the Dark Conservatarian, your host and moderator for this edition of another Strike Force debate. This being on, well, the obvious for my channel, abortion, which is being, I guess, kind of repetitive, but this time we have a newcomer for our channel. Actually, he's been around a few times before, this being Richard of the Right Side of History. Say hello, Richard.
Hi, everyone. This is Richard Bronson from the Right Side of History. I'm glad to be here today. Thanks for letting me on your show. By the way, I love it. Love it.
You're welcome. And S-Man, anything you want to give an opening?
I'm S-Man, and I'm having the opinion that Rich here does not like, and that's why we're here today. And I think this is going to be an interesting conversation, and I think it's going to be a productive one, at least more productive than my conversations with Ham can get sometimes.
Right. All right. So everybody knows the format by now, but just a quick reminder to the audience: 5 minutes opening statements, each 5 minutes counter arguments, each, and then 30 minutes cross-examination. Actually, we'll do, since Rich wants to keep it down to about an hour, we'll do 20 minutes of cross-examination, then 30 minutes of reading the chat and extended cross-examination, and then 5 minutes of ending statements, which is probably still a little bit over an hour, but still, it's much closer than what I originally had it at. Anyways, Richard, you said that S-Man, you want to go first?
Yeah, you can go first because I brought him here. So I would say, it's like a person being your front door. You want something to eat? Here you go.
All right. So, S-Man, ready to go?
Yes.
All right. 5 minutes starting now.
Okay. So, for context on this conversation, me and Rich here, there was a tweet I had made where I think I was mocking the pro-life movement or something, as that is something I generally do, and he wanted to have this conversation. My take on abortion is a fairly consistent one. I think it should be a last resort, but in the end of the game, I think that it is an issue that is not a big deal in this country. I think that abortion, while I don't like it, I don't view it as my business if someone has one or not. I don't think that the United States or any country in the world where abortions happen a lot are in any danger of these things happening. I don't view it as murder. I don't view it as really anything evil, although it is a gruesome process nonetheless. And I think we can all agree, my opponent here can agree that late-term abortions are of course unnecessary unless it involves the life of the mother. And I don't mean to speak for my opponent here, but I can assume, and if he wants to correct me, he can, that he's fine with it, at least in life of mother circumstances. I don't know how.
Biologically, yes.
Okay, all right. As for incest and rape, I don't know. I'm not gonna put words in his mouth, but I'm pro-choice. I mean, I don't even agree with the term pro-abortion. I think that is a term people generally take to try and annoy the pro-life or anti-abortion community. Although I'm pretty sure if we look at definitions, I'm pretty sure there are people who would unironically take the name pro-abortion. At the end of the day, I think that the attempts to overturn things like Roe v. Wade is a waste of time and resources, and I think that there are bigger issues this country is facing that are more important to deal with than the whole abortion question. And I'm looking at the definition just for the record. It means that you're in favor of the ability of medically induced abortion as a means of ending a pregnancy. And this will be my last point before I concede my time. That I think that if you can find any other way besides an abortion to not be a parent, like adoption, or even if you do choose to raise the kid, I think that is a good option too. And that's actually where I'm going to close off and concede the floor.
All right. So 2.25 minutes has been withdrawn from S-Man, and now the floor is yielded to Richard. Richard, ready to go?
Yes.
Go now. 5 minutes.
Okay. I am a pro-life advocate. I have the belief that an unborn child, like any individual in this country, has an individual right to life that should not be infringed upon by others, and only acceptable within special cases. Those special cases, those individual cases, such as the things S-Man were speaking about, rape, incest, anything that any of those minute cases and those individual cases that should be looked at, especially. I believe that the conception of the human life, that human life begins at the conception. I believe this because if you don't know that the zygote basically is a cell formed by a fertilization between the mature male and the mature female, that basically it's composed of human DNA and other human molecules. So it's so in its nature, it's undeniably it's a human, and not some other species, as some other people on the left, or even people who are going pro-choice to the extent of their term abortions, would like to claim. I would also like to give my claim that you can tell the gender of a baby within the 14 to 20 weeks of gestation, and even in some cases within 6 weeks, because the baby's penis or vulva begins forming as early as 6 weeks, and 89% of all abortions happen during the first trimester prior to the 13th week of gestation. So basically, you can figure this out within 6 weeks by your baby's penis or vulva. And you can also find out the gender of the baby between 14 and 20 weeks with gestation, proving again that we all know here that basically it's a human life. It's nothing more. It's not a glob of cells, or it has to have brain waves to be detected for it to be a conscious human life. I think that argument is kind of null and void, especially when you bring up that it has literal human DNA. Undeniably, it's a human. The zygote thing I was talking about, the other forms and means you can get to understanding what the baby is before you even abort the baby, which is in the 13th, which is in the first term, in which all 89% of abortions happen. And not only that, but at the end of the day, you also have the double homicide thing, which I like to talk about as well, which even the law knows is a human life. The double homicide by the Unborn Victims of Violence Act of 2004. It's a law that recognizes an embryo as or a fetus as a utero, as a legal victim if they are injured or killed. The law defines a child in utero as a member of the species Homo sapiens, clearly defined in the legislation of the bill, and at any stage of development who is carried in the womb. So basically, at any stage of development, it doesn't matter. It could be a fetus. It could be just starting out. It is clarified as a human in the womb, one of the members of the species of Homo sapiens. The law clearly defines. So no matter which way you go, no matter which ways you look, the law, the scientific back knowledge to even prove it, it is a human life. And I think it's not hard at all to prove that it's a human life at all whatsoever. There's nothing more and nothing less. That's all I conclude my time.
Okay. Darkon, you live?
Oh, sorry. I didn't.
Wow.
Unprofessionalism right there. But anyway, so that is 5 minutes. Or no, that was like 1.5 minutes yielded from Richard. And now S-Man has his 5 minutes for right now for counter statements. So S-Man, ready?
All right.
Go now.
All right. I'm going to take this in reverse order for the couple points I jotted down here. All right. To tackle the double homicide issue, this was a bit vague, but generally I've spoken to pro-lifers about this. So in the case of a woman getting murdered, there was a case in California. It was all over the national news. Lacey Peterson was her name, and she was 8 months along, and her husband, Scott Peterson, yeah, I think that was his name. He killed her, and she wanted to have the baby. She thought she was going to take it to term, and unfortunately, she did not. So in the case of double homicide laws, it's usually the woman is wanting to have the child, or she's going to take it to term and put it up for adoption, or find some other way of the child still being taken to term and being taken care of by somebody else. The termination of the pregnancy was not consensual in that case. Even if she was going to abort it, if someone had killed her, she did not consent to that action being taken against her. So the death of the baby would not be her fault. I'm not saying that's what you said, but she could not help that situation. Brain waves, you say none need to be detected. I would say that sentience and the ability to survive outside the womb is actually brainwaves and sentience and the ability to survive outside the womb. Yes, you could have a situation where someone could be born 3 months premature, so they'd be 6 months along. They run the increased risk of suffering birth defects. We see that, they still live full lives, but if they're not able to survive outside the womb, I would say that it's, while it would not be right to abort it, I would say that it would go up. It would depend on the several states. Some states have no abortion time cap, like I think New York and Virginia are gonna try and push for that if they haven't already. As for 89% of fetuses being born in the first trimester, and I know that's gonna be used as a Freudian slip. We can understand that this idea that if you're going to not carry a pregnancy to term, my belief is that you should, as soon as you find out you're pregnant. Which I've spoken to some pro-lifers. I know this is anecdotal, but they generally some of them even admitted you could find out you're pregnant as early as 2 weeks, sometimes 4. I think it's probably 4, to be honest. So as soon as you find out you are pregnant, you should consider if you're going to have the abortion or not. If it takes you like a couple months to figure out whether or not you're going to have a child, it's more and more likely that you're making the option without even saying anything. It's like a pocket veto. And I already wrote down about you say cell-forming equals life, but again, they are not sentient. They are not able to survive outside the womb. And is this as far back as you're willing to go when it comes to declaring something a life? I mean, there are people who would say that, masturbation is murder. I'm not saying that's what you're saying. I'm just trying to get this clear for the record, that masturbation is murder because semen in a man's scrotum, they are potential lives and whatnot. And rights for the unborn, what rights do they have, since they're not able to
1 minute.
They're not able to do much in the womb anyway, and they have no real rights to exercise to begin with. Special cases when it comes to making exceptions for when it's okay to abort. We can talk about that. And calling it a child, I'm going to quickly, for the record, check a definition to see what we define as a child. So I'm going to try and hurry and see what we define as a child. But
30 seconds.
All right. A young human being below the age of puberty or below the legal age of majority. Interesting. All right. And that's essentially my response to Rich here. I yield the floor.
All right. So pretty much all time taken by S-Man, and now it is Rich's turn. You ready, Rich?
Yes.
All right. Starting now.
Concluding about the thing about what's the rights of the unborn baby. Now, as we both know, the unborn baby the fetus is in it is not even a part of the well, they're not the same. The mom and when the women basically say with pro-choice, it's their body, it's their choice. No one cares about their right. No one cares about their choice. We don't care about their body. We care about the sentient being that's within their body. The thing that's not the sentient being, but the human life that's inside its body. Within its body, it's a whole individual human with individual rights garnered towards the Constitution. You have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and this is what that specific individual that's in the stomach has. See, the one thing that always seems to confuse me about the pro-choice argument is that, one, the DNA of the baby is differently than the mother. That means they're both basically separate entities to begin with. Number two, the baby itself uses basically the mother as a host, really, to even begin with. The only thing they're attached to is the umbilical cord, which in reality is used to feed and filter and give him food so he can keep eating and mature and grow off of that. For context, it takes from 20 to 35% of babies born at 23 weeks of gestation survive, while 50
What
to
percentage?
20 to 35% of babies born at 23 weeks of gestation survive. 50%.
I do wanna remind everybody that this point in the debate is when interjections are not allowed. That is for cross-examination.
All right.
Okay.
So resuming now.
Okay. 50 to 70% of babies born at 24. Born at 24 to 25 weeks, and more than 90% born at 26 to 27 weeks can survive out the womb. If out of the womb prematurely. So the thing about it is that no matter which way you look at it, still some of my own specific sorry, I don't know what's going on in my throat. Sickness. Okay. No matter which way you look at it, at the end of the day, it still favors, in my opinion, that what I count as a human life is what it literally is. The reason why I call it a human life to begin with is because this human DNA and other human molecules gives it the nature of it being undeniably human. I think my personal opinion, if you were to go home and your mom was to say, hey, Timmy, I think something's in my stomach. I don't think the first thing they would say is, I think we're gonna have to wait here. I don't think we got to wait a little bit. I don't think we can see if it's a life. I think we got a little bit to wait. I think the immediate consumption of that news would activate someone to think it's a baby. I think the majority of people who know, I think the majority of people who are, if put in that situation, would think it's a baby. I think even the people on the left, or even some of the pro-choicers who are on the left, or even some people who are in the Democratic Party, believe that if they were given that specific opportunity, they would believe it's a baby to even begin with. As for anything else goes, specifically, like I told you before, you can tell the gender of the baby within 14 to 20 weeks of gestation. You can tell specific things and characteristics about the baby. You can already do these specific things. If you want to go, you can even go any deeper in that. The cardiovascular system is the first major system to function. So about 22 days after conception, the child's heart begins to circulate his own blood, unique to his mother's, and his heartbeat can detect on ultrasound. At just 6 weeks, the child's eyes and eyelids, nose, mouth, and tongue start to form. Electrical brain activity can be detected at 6 or 7 weeks, and by the end of the eighth week, the child, now known scientifically as a fetus, has developed all his organs and bodily structures. And by 10 weeks after conception, a child can make bodily movement. So even with that being said, at the end of the day, the majority of people the 89% of people who abort babies during their first trimester prior to the 13th week of gestation. So that being said,
1 minute.
They're aborting the baby in relative time of all the stuff happening within 22 days, within 6 weeks, and also within 7 to 6 weeks, and also within 10 weeks. So there's already signs of this thing being alive, and there's already signs of it being there. I don't think anyone needs to say that it's just a glob of cells. It's a human life, and I think the majority of people on the pro-life and on the left know it's a human life. They just don't want to do it because it doesn't fit their agenda. I concede and yield the time.
All right. So that was 30 seconds left, and now we shall go to 20 minutes cross-examination. And this is a time when that you guys can interject with one another if you feel so please, like you got a quick question or a quick comment before they continue on. But complete and utter cutoffs, if they're still in the middle of talking, still wanting to talk, I am going to hush that down. No over talking and no insulting. And again, if anybody insults anyone 3 times in this debate, then that's going to be a timeout for you for 5 minutes, and your opposition will get a full 5 minutes uninterrupted to speak. So anyway, 20 minutes starting now.
All right. So to quickly go back over this. So determining things early, like I said, okay. So you said, I'm trying to remember exactly when you said regarding determining how 20 something weeks they could survive outside the womb. Basically, my response to this would be that that all it makes the argument for is like I said, is that as soon as you find out you are pregnant, if you're not going to carry this to term, but your body is healthy enough to do it, but you just don't want to, which for the record I'm not that sympathetic to. But anyway, it's true though. But whatever. But yeah, as soon as you find out and you're not wanting to carry it to term, then you can abort. But if the longer you go on, and then I would say that it becomes a little harder and harder to justify.
All right, quick question, but with that one, by the way. Okay,
right.
so with that type of specific statement, I think you're going for more of a what you would approve in this specific case and what you think should happen in those situations. But then realistically, those situations don't happen the majority of the time because they end up aborting the baby past due when they know it's a human life.
All right. Well, let me see. Oh, sorry. I'm just looking at looking at a study talking about pregnancy symptoms and how early you can tell. I mean, I'm pretty sure people when they're on the pregnancy subject, they can look up things like this to find out the information about how early you can detect a pregnancy. I mean, weeks 1 to 4, you can determine mild cramping and spotting, a missed period at week 4, fatigue week 4-5, nausea. The pregnancy glow would be at just to skip ahead. Would be week 12, and then there's some symptoms that are easy to miss because of the fact that you can suffer those things and not even be pregnant whatsoever, like acne, high blood pressure, mood swings, motion sickness. I mean, those are signs of a pregnancy, but people can have them and they're not pregnant.
So do you think that these specific things, these specific events, though, you want specifically? I think we can find some common ground in this. That you and me basically feel that we shouldn't have. The longer they take, the more unjustifiable it becomes to abort the baby.
Yes.
And with that being said, as well, but the realism of it all is that we wish that they didn't take longer. So your point would actually be more substantial, but they do take longer realistically. And I don't know, and I can give up. I don't know if I can give. I think there's a lot of factors why, but 89. But like I said before, by AGI and the CDC, 89% of all abortions happen during the first trimester prior to the 13th week. So everything that happens during that 13th week of gestation or after that 13th week of gestation, prior to what they would have been doing before, has already shown to come up as a human life. So now we've just went back and forth about what a human life is. Now we've actually proven some things that show it's a human life, including its ears, its tongue, its mouth, its eyelids, what it does, what its brainwaves even detects at 6 weeks in the womb or 7 weeks in the womb. So now if they've taken all the way to the 13th week, which the majority of them do, then now that argument kind of becomes null and void now because the majority of women are taking longer times to do that. And by the time they do that, it's already shown that the baby is already here. We already know it's the baby with electric brainwave showing at 6 to 7 weeks. 13 weeks is when they start to do it.
All right. Well, like I said earlier on the all right. So that was the pregnancy symptoms and fetal development. I mean, the biggest sign you can determine, like the biggest sign about if you might be pregnant is if you miss your menstrual cycle. Every woman has to go through it. Well, most women go through it at least once a month. Thank God I'm not a woman. But yeah.
You sexist pig.
Damn right. But anyway, also I'm going to quickly want to define the length of a trimester, just to be clear for the record. But like I said, like if this type of point that you're making, if it is so first trimester is weeks 1 to 12, so I'm assuming it's probably going to be around roughly the
3
same
months.
amount of so like 3 months, so it's going to be roughly even. Roughly even. So if this point became mainstream, which maybe it is, maybe it isn't, on what you've been saying thus far, I'm pretty sure people, the pro-choice side and the more extreme side, the pro-abortion side, would start encouraging people to, if they miss their period or if they have unprotected sex, which for the record, condoms are not expensive.
They're not.
Not at all. They're not.
I bought 4 magnums before. Very easy. Got scared though, but very easy.
Yeah. Pregnancy is easy as hell to prevent, but like that's why I don't sympathize with abortion in the name of convenience. I don't really sympathize with it, but essentially, if the point you're making is mainstream, then the people will say, if you don't have if you have unprotected sex, have a pregnancy test, or let me see. I mean, I'm pretty sure the accuracy you could argue the accuracy of pregnancy tests.
Yeah, no one's arguing the accuracy. We're just arguing the amount of the rate at which women go to find out what they do after they figure the specific thing out. I don't think many women. And can you give me the statistics of basically what it would take, or like the weeks that have to come up to already begin with for them to already figure out that there are signs showing pregnancy to begin with?
Oh, the one that I just read?
Yeah, read that one again one more time.
Okay, so this is from Healthline. I'm on my phone, so I'll provide a link in the dark the dark cancer the Strike Force discussion, whatever the fuck you call it, Darkon. Essentially, the first symptom.
Chat group, the Twitter chat group.
Yeah, that no one knows the name of. Mild cramping and spotting is the first symptom.
Right.
I mean, if you want me to read,
I will post any links that you guys have in the description and post of this stream.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So mild cramping and spotting is the first one. This is weeks 1 to 4. Do you want me to read the big ones, or do you want or the whole thing?
Just give me what happens and the weeks. What happens in the weeks?
Missed period is week 4. Fatigue is at week 4 or 5. Nausea is for 4 to 6 weeks. Tingling or aching breasts 4 to 6. A number of these are around the same time. So if all these are happening around the same time, then I'm pretty sure it's going to be increasingly obvious that you probably need to see a doctor. Bloating is also and frequent urination is at 4 to 6 weeks. Motion sickness at 5 to 6. Mood swings, temperature changes at weeks 6. High blood pressure at week 8. Extreme fatigue and heartburn at week 9. Faster heartbeat weeks 8 to 10. Breast and nipple changes week 11. Acne and Darkon, you filthy-minded motherfucker.
I'm sorry.
And noticeable weight gain, all 3 at weeks 11, and pregnancy glow at week 12.
Okay, so
that's all of them.
Okay, so
I'm sorry. Go on.
So now we're discussing this from 4 to 6 weeks. The majority of the things that we've talked about, there's some of them in there that's like from 5, 6 weeks right there in there. They're like minority ones I felt in there. But the majority of those things were 5 to 6, 4 to 5 weeks. And as I just said before, the brainwaves can already be detected by the 6 weeks. So the thing I'm always trying to understand is, and I think I need to do a little bit more research into that. I mean, we can even do it together, be about a little bipartisanship issue. It can be about why women don't go to the doctor's office or don't go to seek out an abortion immediately as they feel an abortion has come on. I don't know why, because something personal happened in my life, who I know someone really, really close who had sex and waited like a month to get an abortion. And I was like, really? I was like, this is when it is. Kingdom Hearts 3. Okay, it's coming out. I mean, I can't believe. Okay, all right, January 3rd. Okay. But we have to understand also some other things as well. I think that the majority of the people, I think now out of all times, and when you express the mainstream type of thing that's going on, I think the reason why specifically, personally, if the reason why no one's calling it out is because everyone's wrapped up. There's a big, more significant thing that the pro-choice agenda is trying to pull, instead of the more logical arguments that can actually work in their favor if they did it effectively, which is it's your body, it's your choice. It's your body, it's your choice. It's your body, it's your choice. Brett Kavanaugh, this and that, this Roe v. this and that. They're pushing so many other straw man arguments or bigger arguments that can be debunked in like instantly 2 minutes of a Google search. Instead of using really good they can use their really, like what you just said, one of those answers to actually up that rate of people getting abortions at a faster rate.
10 minutes.
But your claim can make a lot of sense, and that's the same thing. That's the same thing that the left seems to do, which is very wrong. Which is basically have something but use it very ineffectively, and it's pretty terrible. It's pretty bad.
Yeah. All right. So. Okay, so this is something I will show. I can agree with Rich here on, and I know some extremists on the pro-choice side are going to be screeching in the chat that I'm secretly now pro-life. But I agree that saying "my body, my choice" is
or a certain
enough.
Friend that pushed out a certain hashtag. No, I'm joking.
It couldn't possibly be in this hangout, not at all. Anyway, so yeah, just saying my body, my choice, I don't think is much of an answer. Mentioning Brett Kavanaugh is not much of an answer. I mean, there were bigger issues with that guy than whether or not he has a constitutional right to grab women by the genitals, or whether or not he's pro-life or pro-choice. I think, but anyway, I will also say that on the issue at hand with maybe we can agree on this. I'm not sure. I don't know every belief you have, but the idea of stronger sex education. We were talking about this it's in my state. We abolished teen living, which was unfortunate, but we have something similar where it's it's like home economics and financial literacy and teen living mixed together. But we're talking about how improving sex education, abandoning the abstinence only, and I mean, hell, I went to Hot Topic once with a friend, and I was able to find like you can get a condom for $1, like, and they can give you Plan B.
Oh, what? Oh, whoa, yeah, come on now.
Yeah. So
Hot Topic.
I didn't go willingly. Like
I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking about the access is so easy.
Yeah,
it's in Hot Topic.
Yeah,
Hot Topic.
Yeah, I can literally imagine a condom dealer. Like it could be that easy. You open up your jacket. Hey kid, you want some rubbers?
I got the gold ones right here. Here's the gold ones right here. They're not fake, man. They're not fake. I didn't put holes in them.
That would be cruel to do, but yeah. So stronger sex education. I mean, heck, I would even, and I think you can find another way to really, like the idea of safe sex and trying to determine when it is appropriate. I think you can drill it into people's heads without having to sound like you're abstinence only. Don't even like put a huge emphasis on pregnancy. That's actually that's not even a big risk they should even worry about. It's like the risk of getting an STI, because certain states have a real problem with it and whatnot. So,
yeah. I'm realizing something here that you sound like you're not pro. Because when I was going into this, and a lot of people when I was going even in class with it, I was describing pro-choice as advocating and arguing that whether or not a woman is pregnant, she continues with the pregnancy. Whether she continues with the pregnancy should be her own personal choice, as it involves her body. She should be able to abort the baby if she's willing to feel it from the beginning and even to the end. She should be free to be able to do whatever she wants to do. But I feel like since we've been talking so far, you're not. You seem like to be a person, hopefully, that you do not support late-term abortions.
I literally
at the beginning, right?
He said it at the beginning.
I strongly oppose late-term abortions.
So, so are you pro-choice beyond? Like, are you pro-choice beyond like how many weeks?
I am pro-choice up until I would say at least 24 weeks, because that's what my state says. I mean, my problem with this whole issue is every state has a different standard, and I mean, I think they should at least have the same standard, or at least as close as you can. I mean, like 22, 24 weeks for the state of Utah. I don't know what state you're in, but
Ohio, 6 weeks.
Oh yeah, Ohio. Yes. Oh. I was like, wait, what? Anyway, yeah. So, yeah, like on the issue at hand, I don't agree with the reason I don't agree is because like 8-9 months, when you get that far along, oh yeah, easily the child could survive. You'd have to keep them in the hospital probably overnight just to be safe, but they could still easily survive outside the womb. And I don't think that, like that's way more than enough time to make up a decision.
5 minutes, by the way.
All right, time feels like it goes by really fast or really slow depending on your mood. I mean, but 9 months is a really long time. Like we'll probably change a little bit as people within 9 months. I think you could easily make up the choice, not within like 5 minutes or 8.5 months, but I think you could at least take a few, I don't know, days or even a week to make up your mind. But yeah, the further along the more time you wait, I think is the more time that you wasted and the choice is being made for you. For the record, me and a certain YouTuber I will not name, he will be forever anonymous, spread a little hashtag about yours truly talking about whether or not I was anti-abortion, because I made a compromise. I said, okay, if you can.
Facepalm.
I said that he's anonymous. Anyway, as basically, it's if it is true that you can detect brainwaves at like 10 weeks, which that's almost 2.5 months, which that's still plenty of time, then I would, I said that would be a compromise to lower the time cap, which I think that it's still plenty of time, and I don't. Well, I wouldn't in practice lower it like that. I would lower it to 20 weeks. I think that would be more than enough of a lowering if we were not to overturn it. I will also say that regarding what you said regarding people saying Roe v. Wade and everything, this is also another point of contention I had with this certain person, was over whether or not is even worth an issue, like fighting in the courts or whatever.
It should be. In my personal opinion, I think it should be overturned. But
yeah, I'll say this, that it seems highly unlikely. Just for the record, I see it as highly unlikely, even with a conservative majority, which is a narrow majority on the court.
Which is true. Yeah. I agree with that. That was the same entire concern that was given to a lot when people were talking about the confirmation of Justice Supreme Court Kavanaugh being in there and how he's going to take away women's rights. The majority of conservatives in the background are basically saying that the case would rarely ever come to them, if not never come to them, for them to overturn Roe versus Wade. A lot of things would have to take place in order for them to even get to that position to even begin with. Even though the majority of people feel that Roe v. Wade is about decision now due to public polling. I mean, 61% of Americans say abortion should be legal after the fetal heartbeat has begun, which occurs in the first month of pregnancy. 72% of Americans say that abortion should be illegal after the first 3 months of pregnancy. 86% of Americans say abortion should be illegal after the first 6 months of pregnancy. Only 6% to 17% of Americans, depending on how you ask the question and who is asking the question, believe abortion should be legal at any time in all circumstances. And even a study by, I think, the Center of Gender Equality in 2003, the nationwide survey that revealed the majority of women, 51%, believe abortion should either never be permitted or permitted only for rape, incest, or life endangerment. And even a study conducted by the Family Research Council found that 92% of abortions in America are purely elective, done on healthy women to end the lives of healthy children. This is the problem I'm having with the specific type of bill, such as the Virginia bill and the New York bill. They never propose what they mean by health. They did, because you and me, when we hear health, we're thinking biological health, right? But yes, they're not thinking about biological health. They're thinking about financial health and social health, things that can fluctuate very easily more than your health already to begin with. For example, for this, I can get cancer, but I can't stop cancer tomorrow. Like, I can't just say, oh, well, cancer's gone to the next day. But I can be broke today and possibly be rich tomorrow. I can be broke today and possibly have money tomorrow. I can be broke today and get a job tomorrow to make money. It fluctuates very easily. And the amount of excuses people would give, especially because 92% of abortions in America are purely elective, again, done on healthy women at the end of the for healthy children. This is the reason why the bills that the Democrats have proposed won't have to fit for women who are in endangerment they don't want it to fit for the endangerment for biological health. That's why they're trying to stay away from it. It's not a hard task to understand. Why are you avoiding biological health and going towards social and financial health? The number one thing you should be asking yourself is, should the baby be able to be carried in the woman? And if not, could it make the person die, the baby die, or could it make both of these people die? And that's the question should be asked, and that should be at the end of the day. But they're not trying to do that. They're trying to nitpick their way through the whole entire legal system by different words and different word choices, like the left loves to do.
All right, yeah. I think I'm going to allow S-Man to very quickly make a response point to that. Don't take too long on that, and then we'll go to 30 minutes addressing the chat and extended cross-exam.
All right, so just really quickly, when it comes to when you were mentioning opinion polling, I'm not disputing the fact that it seems like more women than men are taking a slightly less pro-choice take on the abortion question. Okay, so I've received a message from Dark Khan. He says, I don't care if I reveal it. Yes, it was Dark Khan who did the whole
Yes.
Hey,
me and S-Man have a bit of a history of butting heads, even though we're close best buds on the internet. We still have our negative moments.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
he had done that hashtag S-Man is pro-life confirmed, which is a golden hashtag I would literally print out on a t-shirt. Unless I'm in California. But anyway, yeah. We were debating this, and we mentioned opinion polling. I don't remember the context of why, but we did. And it was actually rather, like, in terms of the United States, I don't know about the world, but just the United States, wasn't it like a lot the problem with polls is the way you ask it will of course affect, and the amount of options you give will affect the results. So if I'm giving a poll and I only give you a binary choice, it's probably going to be, depending on how I word it too, it can be closer or really lopsided. If I give 3 options, it could be closer, lopsided, or whatever. So on polling on opinions, I wouldn't be shocked if it is women that are more pro-life than men. When it comes to
All right.
but when it comes to those laws in New York and Virginia, I think that the issue in the abortion debate can be like defining terms and language, and sometimes people bringing emotions into it.
All right.
I agree.
So I'm gonna just open up with reading out a comment that Reckless Trucker actually made. He says, "And conservatives don't want to have that fight. They're weak on it, to be honest, in regards to abortion." Okay. I would kind of disagree with that, but anyway, I wrote down some of the questions. Actually, all these statements and questions are from Reckless Trucker. Nobody has really put out any arguments or questions that I thought were really worthy of mentioning. But all right, so we're gonna start our addressing the chat right now, and I'm gonna read off the first statement. Reckless Trucker, and I think this is like an argument more specifically to S-Man, but he does have at least one question for Rich. He says, "Unable to support itself sounds people on oxygen heart thingy, I can't remember, and genetic code is how you're created, and therefore it is literally you in the form of genetic data. The unborn baby is in a womb because otherwise the woman's white cells would attack and kill it. Her own body realizes that the baby is a separate entity and is why it's hermetically sealed by said womb." All right, do not know of who wanted to address that. I think that is more addressed to S-Man, but whoever wants to respond to it.
I mean, I'm not going to. Let me. I'm trying to read this for myself. How far up in the chat is this?
It's quite a ways up. It's more close to the beginning, actually.
Okay, so just looking over this.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go all the way up.
Yeah. All right. I'm way up in there. Just like the abortion doctor would be in this case. So, I know I'm going to make the pro-lifers hate me here, but yeah, looking at this.
S-Man, you are no longer my friend.
Good. I'm kidding. Anyway, so looking at this, I mean, I'm not going to dispute women can have a rough time when they're pregnant. A baby can sometimes, the body might see it as a foreign. We'll see it as a separate or foreign entity, and they're not going to react well to it, and that can make the pregnancy like a really rough ride. But I whether or not it has its own genetic code, I don't see as really relevant. Regarding someone unable to support themselves on oxygen, well, I mean, I mean, the person can still, they could breathe on, they can't breathe on their own. They have a tank, but that still doesn't mean that like if you cut with a pair of scissors or something the tube to someone's oxygen tank and they died, that would be, of course, murder. Like they would survive probably a lot longer than a fetus would, but that is nonetheless that would be besides the point. As for that, I don't have much else of a reply to that.
All right, I'm gonna let Rich respond to that, and then I'm gonna let you respond back, S-Man. Rich.
I have no.
I mean, if
I don't know.
If you did have any, well, I meant in response to S-Man or even Trucker for that matter, whichever one. If you didn't, otherwise I'll just move on.
Yeah, move on. I mean, every.
All right.
I'm not even gonna focus on the chat. I feel like it's too much of a distraction.
Yeah, I'm gonna be focusing on it mostly if there are like any arguments or questions that are posted for either of my two debaters here. But first question from Trucker, first actual question is towards S-Man, and then he has one right below for Rich. He says, S-Man, at S-Man, how do you define sentience and how would you measure it? Also, what limits would you put on abortion? Now, I can answer for him comfortably. He would limit it at 24 weeks, he has said before, but S-Man, go.
All right, so to define sentience, I don't think it's a very complex answer. So, sentience is the capacity to feel, perceive, or experience subjectively. You can experience sensations such as pain, suffering, pleasure, and comfort. An animal is sentient that will have the ability to receive internal sensation and information from its environmental and then interpret it as an emotion. So, if Rich here had smacked a pro-choicer who was screaming in his face saying, "My body, my choice," that person can feel pain because they just got smacked, and Rich might feel a little pain from his hand because he just smacked somebody. That's generally what the literal definition of sentience is, not involving Rich here, but just involving the capacity to feel, perceive, or experience subjectively.
All right. I presume that you want to respond back to that, Rich. You can go on. Comments.
I'm sorry. One more time. What was the question asked? I'm sorry.
Defining sentience.
Well, okay, yeah.
Well,
Trucker's question was, how do you define sentience and how would you measure it? Also,
for measuring it. Oh, okay. How to measure that?
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of ways you can measure it, but one way in general is to see how someone can react to pain. Like if your legs are numb because you're a cripple, you're not going to feel anything if I stuck a pin in your leg. Like if you're not a cripple and I stuck a pin in your leg, you'll react probably violently. As for measuring it, measuring it, like I said, there's multiple ways you can do it. That's just a general example of how to do it.
And I have no response back because basically he's being asked the question that literally is garnered towards him, which is the defining how something works, which he likes to talk and he supports.
Okay. Do you have anything to say in response to S-Man or anyone else?
Not yet, until the question's probably put it in my position or there's something that can be a little bit debatable.
Although to give to you something from another thing from Reckless Trucker, an extension to what you said in response to his question, he says, "Oh, by that definition, amoeba are sentient."
I don't even know what the hell. How do you even spell it?
Amoeba.
Amoeba.
Amoeba, like AMEOBA.
All right, found it. Genus. Amoeba is a single-celled amoeboids. I'm just looking at what the hell this thing is. I've never even heard of that fucking thing. Okay.
An amoeba, well, I do not know exactly what it is, but basically a microscopic organism. As far as I know, they do not have a brain or anything like that, so I would not really define them as sentient per se. No more sentient than a freaking flower.
I would agree with Dark Con.
That's my layman's perspective, though. I haven't actually read into it.
Yeah. I will have a question for Rich when the time comes to, because that just popped up in my head when you were talking about a flower and other stuff. It won't be like, is it pro-life if you actually step on a flower? No, it'll just be it will be somewhat in that ballpark. But
all right, Gandhi.
All right. So now I'll move on to Reckless Trucker's question for Rich. And by the way, if anybody watching has any other statements or questions or whatever, post them, please, because I do not have a full lineup of questions here. Not as much as I typically get when I go hosting these debates. But anyway, to Rich, what are the implications of the fact that without a womb, a woman's own white cells would kill her baby? I think this is more of a scientific question.
Well, what happened? Well, the question to even begin with is the first question you have to ask yourself is what happens if you have a high white blood cell count in the pregnancy. So basically, what happens here is that as the immune system starts to adjust itself, you expect more white blood cells. The count increases at different intervals. So there's nothing, but it happens all the time. It's nothing out of the ordinary. So there's no thought of any grave medical emergency that needs to happen. If it does happen, it should be dismissed immediately because it happens all the time. It's nothing out of the ordinary. The white blood cell count increases at different intervals during pregnancy to even begin with. There are many things that cause it to begin with, such as stress that can happen during pregnancy. You can have infection, inflammation, leukemia, autoimmune disease. I mean, there's so many things with that specific thing, but in general, it's a very, very rare thing that the white blood cell count would attack that baby and hurt it from the pregnancy.
Interesting. I have a feeling that I'm definitely gonna have to re-watch or re-listen to this because I'm not really paying attention to what's being said to here. I'm more paying attention to the chat to see if there's anything that needs to be addressed. So
this is starting to become a regular pattern, Darkon. Twitter thinking emoji.
All right.
Yeah. Well, actually, that was all that was in the chat. If there's anything else that you two want to say back and forth to each other,
sure.
Anything that you feel like wasn't addressed or wasn't addressed enough or whatever.
Unless Rich has anything, I do have a question we can probably talk about a bit. As I've noticed some pro-choicers and even pro-abortionists have been lodging it to his side of the aisle, and I'm wondering how he would respond.
Okay, go on.
All right, so when I was watching your boy Dark Khan and Owen Cookdonald arguing about abortion, Owen asks Dark Khan if he's a vegetarian or a vegan. Now, I think, veganism, that's a whole different conversation, but do you think it is more consistent if someone's anti-abortion or pro-life if they are vegan? Or do you think there's no inconsistency at all?
With inconsistency within what do they do that's inconsistent compared to vegetarian veganism and
well, I mean, you would be against the killing of what you call a human being. What would be ethical about killing what would be ethical about killing an animal?
Well, I think that when it comes to the pro-choice, the consistency would be right over to the place of the people who are vegan. Vegans tend to be, if I'm correct, and polling shows this, vegans tend to be white liberals the majority of the time. And not only do they tend to be white liberals the majority of the time, but they're the ones that always say, we must protect the rights of chickens and cows.
Racist. You fucking racist.
we must protect the rights of chickens and cows and turtles. Don't forget the turtles and things like that. So, I think specifically in my personal opinion, they seem to be the most ones consistent with that. And their rights would be, again, over there to the pro-choice thing. They would be like, we need to protect the rights of women's rights. Okay?
Women with a Y.
Yeah, women with a Y. And maybe an X chromosome? No, X chromosome. But yeah, tend to be, and more people tend to be on the conservative side, or the right side tend to be people who eat meat, people who are actually, live for a change, people who actually can handle some chicken nuggets once in a while and a good little salad, okay, and a little bit of once in a while. So I think on one side of the aisle, it seems that the party of white liberals that happens to be the veganism era seems to be a little bit more on the and I know I feel that way because I was once a vegan at one point in my life. Oh, really? Yeah, I was once a vegan. Wasn't for it very long. My mom was a vegan, so she wanted me to be a vegan. Tofu is really good, by the way. Okay, they try to make tofu not like all that. Tofu is really good with some rice. It's amazing. Okay, it's beautiful. It's not meatloaf, but it's good. It gets you through the day. All right, so they're okay.
Reckless trucker in the chat.
Oh, Jesus Christ. I saw that. He's like...
I'm not racist, I'm black. Anyway, you got to get... hey, did you know he said later on, remember I said I bought Magnums? And I think he said, Magnums, Rich must be black. It's so funny.
Oh, Okay, so
Oh god. Charlie Murder in the chat, that's Brandon, says eat more abortions.
Eat more
oh,
abortions.
what the fuck?
You remember that joke back in that live stream, S-Man? That was great.
And I was I was actually enjoying a really nice cheeseburger at the time, which I almost went vegan just from Brandon saying that. And then you decided to go into edgy territory with that. But anyway, I'm looking at let me look at the chat. Also, he says, "Lol, I would say no, using the logic that cow is not the same species." I don't know what in context you're talking.
Oh yeah. That I was about to read that, but thank you, S-Man, for reading that yourself.
So my response would be, and I think I might head into the direction of veganism. Just I think it is ethical and everything, and I also think it's just healthier in general. So it's not the same species. Well, I'll just pose this question, and if you want to talk about this on a stream, we could. I'll play the role of the vegan. You play the role of the evil meat eater. But essentially, what trait in an animal, if present in a human being, would you accept that the treatment that you propose to the animal being done onto you? So, like, if you're saying that they're not of the same species, hypothetically, if another species had come to planet Earth and they said, and they want to kill us, and we're like, no, you can't do that. And they say, sorry, species, bro. Or if I'm like saying that, oh well, cows are not as intelligent as human beings, so we can eat them. And someone's like, "Oh, hey, there's a retard over there. You know, they're playing a special ed kid. I'm gonna go kill him and eat him for food needlessly." You know, I mean, you couldn't really complain because you were appealing to intelligence, or you were appealing to species, or you were appealing to something that if the trait you're using to justify killing and eating something needlessly for food, if it would be applied to you, you probably would not accept that justification if it was done unto you. That's basically what I'm going to say. I'll eat. Okay, I think S-Man has gone vegan now. Officially, S-Man is vegan, confirmed. I'll eat cow. Oh, Jesus Christ, trucker. That is.
Oh god. Brandon,
cow
shut up. Stop trying to derail my stream here. But anyway, Rich, okay, this is about to go from an abortion stream to a veganism stream. I mean,
that was just an example.
Right. I mean, if there was anything more on abortion that people wanted to address here, then let's go for it. Otherwise, I'll just, I guess, transfer the rest of the time for talking about veganism instead.
Well, I think that me and S-Man agree for the most part. I don't think we agree all the way down to the point where I just don't believe that abortion should only be. I think abortion should only be given in special cases such as rape. I said race. Rape.
Racist.
Rape, incest, or things like that, and those are very minute cases that can be judged by case basis. But for the rest of the majority of the time, I think that personally, my personal opinion, for the majority of people, that because we do make the majority of the time we do make policy based off the majority and not the minority. I think for the majority of people here in America who have kids out of wedlock with consensual sex, knowing that they have access to a condom, these hound dogs that can just wait for a second, you can't go to BP gas station and get a car, you bums. You really have to think for a second. The responsibility era has really changed it demographically. And I'm 18 years old, and I mean, like, literally take some goddamn responsibility. Like, literally, my grandmother had a kid when she was 14 years old, married, and this is back in we're talking 40s, 50s. She had a kid when she was 14 years old. Met my grandfather. They married around 16, 17. I can't believe you could do this shit at the time. You married. This is Huntington, West Virginia, by the way. Married at 16, 17 years old, and they settled down and had a family together. They were around for 50 something years. But if you want to talk about these specific type of things, then that's what you're probably going to be going towards and going to be going for. But it's all about responsibility at the end of the day. And no one takes any responsibility for the things that they do, then no one's going to start talking about, then no one's going to, you're just going to feel entitled the entire time. I think this is the reason why many people, to begin with, feel that they are so dependent on the government to begin with. They don't look at it as a platform to bounce off of, to create greater opportunities. They look at it as a thing to stay on for a very long period of time. And you and me both know that if you have sex and if you have sex at a specific age, I mean, the majority of people, it even shows right here, from even some of the statistical data that I was able to grab and find, that the majority of people who have kids are about 20 years old. So women in their 20s account for the majority of abortions in 2015 and had the highest abortion rates from the CDC. The adolescents under 15 years old obtained 0.3% of all 2015 abortions. Women aged 15 to 19 accounted for less than 10% of the abortions. So people that's making up the majority of the abortions are people in their 20s or in their or 15 to 19. But don't forget the 15-year-olds attain 0.3%. So we're going anywhere from 16 to 19 now. So that even being said, you have to take up some accountability and some responsibility for having sex at a very young age. No one's saying that's going to be easy. Okay, even though adoption is a thing, and I can give about 23 reasons why adoption is really good, is a really good thing to begin with if you're thinking about aborting a baby. But also, having churches, having your own family, and even having the federal government as a platform to bounce off of, just in case you need this financial help that you're looking for. I mean, you do have the ASPE, what is it? The assistant secretary for planning and evaluation. I think it's like a federal government, the U.S. department that helps dependent children. So, I mean, if you're looking for something in that specific range, that's what you have to go to. And I think that if you overturn Roe versus Wade, you give it back to the states will pick what they want to do. They'll get to do what they want to do with their own laws. That's why Ohio's the top, one of the most strict abortion places in the country, which and I think that specifically, in my personal opinion, that if we're going to be looking at something specifically like this, we're going to have to start eliminating the entitlement, putting more responsibility on these people, which I agree with you, S-Man, which is basically more abstinence,
10 minutes
education. And I agree with all of that to begin with. But I think one thing we're probably disapproving of is probably the whole entire when we feel like it's okay. I feel like a baby should only be aborted in specific cases. You feel like a baby should be aborted in a specific case. I mean, not specific cases, as well as a specific amount of weeks in time, and she should still be given the right to do it at the time that she wants to.
All
right. Am I right?
All right. I want to quickly respond.
I was gonna let you, obviously, but I do want to just announce that we have been going on for a little bit over an hour. But S-Man,
really?
Yeah, just only like an hour and 2 minutes now. Go on.
All right. So first off, if I'm pretty sure if some liberals knew about responsibility and knew that it's easy to avoid these type of things, they probably wouldn't be liberals. But anyway, to touch on the issue of, I guess I got to stop looking at the chat, but to touch up on the issue of I mean, we'll agree that sex education, because I think that's the best way to prevent unintended pregnancies, which don't. I think they do make up a very lopsided chunk of abortions. So to really get it to go down without even having to touch the law is to increase sex education, abandon the abstinence only. I mean, you can advise people that the only way you can ever 100% of the time avoid pregnancy is not having sex till you find a permanent partner or whatever. That was what they would teach us in teen living. And like I said, if you tell them about how likely it is they can get an STI, I'm pretty sure they won't have much of a problem staying abstinent. And when it comes to the strictest state regarding abortion, I could have sworn on DarkCon's Bible it was Iowa, but maybe it is Ohio. But anyway, on responsibility. Oh yeah. On responsibility, I will agree that it is so easy. Even a literal retard could figure out that where to get these things to get to. Sorry, again, the chat, just to get these things they need.
Getting a little bit too edgy there, chat.
Yeah, to figure out how to prevent these things. And what the hell was the last thing I wanted to say? There was one more thing I wanted to touch up upon before I close. I cannot remember, but time or when it's acceptable. Life of mother, rape and incest. That's when I find it acceptable. There's certain time frames I'm fine with. but yeah, I think it is. Oh, and the pro-lifers might get. I'll throw them a bone here. Apparently, depending on where you look, abortion rates are going down in the United States.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's something they can take joy in, and
Roe v. Wade approval has been going down too as well.
yeah, so yeah, I'm pretty sure there'll be people that'll be like, if they repeal it, I'm moving to Canada, just like they said when President Trump was elected.
Texas.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, so that's where I'm gonna,
so I got
that's
a
where I'm
question.
gonna wrap up. Oh wait, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, well, we haven't technically gotten to closing statements, but anyway, Trucker has a quick question for you, Rich. Would you try an aborted cow?
No, I would not. No.
Yeah,
Unless-
no thanks. No
Disgusting.
baby or
No
reckless
Trucker.
no
Reckless.
baby or unborn animals. I mean, that's an inefficient way of, producing food.
Yeah. Also,
Exactly.
Trucker. If I ever met Trucker in person, and he showed me like a fucking aborted cow, I'd probably have some gloves on and throw it at him. I mean, to be fair, it is self defense. Unless he has that gun, then that pumped up kick song will come in handy.
All right, so I got one last question. We got about a little less than 6 minutes of the extended cross exam still, but did we just want to go straight to closing statements?
I'm
fine with going straight to closing statements.
I'm fine with going straight to closing statements as well.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, because we are going a little bit over your preferred time there, Rich. But since S-Man went first, I guess he'll go first on the closing statements as well. Is that all right by you two?
Yeah.
Sure. Again, I'm sorry, the chat. But anyway, so I'll be going first on closing statements?
Yeah, starting now.
All right. So as we've talked about in this debate, I can take a moderate approach to the subject of abortion. I do see that it is easily preventable. I do think that in this topic, yes, I understand why people are going to be the. Sorry, I just had a mind blank. I think I understand why, and it truly was a mind blank. Not lying here, but essentially, it is a sensitive subject for people. I get that. That's why I don't blame people, whether they're pro-life or pro-choice, for treading lightly the pro-life people because they see it as murder and they think it's wrong, and the pro-choice people because it might hit a little closer to home than they're willing to admit. I think that on the issue of abortion. On the issue,
ignore the chat. Ignore.
Shut up. I'm not paying attention to the chat. Essentially, on the issue of abortion.
I gotta pause the time. This is ridiculous.
Anyway,
come on, gather your composure, man. Get on with it.
No, you. But anyway, yeah, on this issue, basically that's just the point that I think people should understand, that it's going to be a sensitive subject. That's why I'm glad that Rich here approached it with some delicacy, and he was able to not be vitriolic, and he was able to keep his composure and just say why he thinks the way he does. And I think that the pro-choice side does have criticisms they ought to face the music on, and I think that regarding the laws in the country, that there needs to be a healthy discussion. And whenever we come on this topic, to pro-choicers, my fellow pro-choicers, don't pull a McDonald's law is where you literally just say bodily.autonomy.com, and it muddies the water on the conversation. That is McDonald's law, is repeating a general talking point.
That was it? S-Man?
No, hang on a second.
All right, well, time is ticking.
Sorry about that. My fucking dog just entered the room. Anyway, if Bear wasn't such a cute dog, I swear to God, I'd be even more pro-choice. Right. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, just to close, I just think that the topic in general, the people, they let rhetoric cloud the debate. That's why it makes it so vitriolic and so taboo and controversial. And that ain't right. That you're doing yourself and your own side a disservice. That's where I'll wrap up my closing statement.
All right, so 2 minutes and 20 seconds to spare. We'll go to Rich, aka the right side of history. Rich, you ready to close?
Yes.
5 minutes now.
For a closing statement, I think the modern pro-choice movement is desperate to protect the image of abortion as positive and pro-women, but not in reality. But in reality, the more abortion is understood, the more one realizes it's a anti-human, anti-life, and anti-woman type of movement that they're pushing for. We as a country have a durable document to thank for that, which is the Constitution, which promotes the personal individual freedom to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That should never be taken away. That's why the approval of Roe v. Wade has gone down over the years, even with Ruth Bader Ginsburg, a hardcore liberal who's going to die soon, once said that the decision was generally bad. And she said, and I quote, this is a quote from her, okay? I'm reading the quote from her right now. She said, "It ventured too far into the change it ordered." So it's on Roe v. Wade. She said it ventured too far in the change it ordered and presented an incomplete justification for its action, and that the Roe decision was not the way the courts generally work. So she even knows, a hardcore liberal even knows that the justification of the entire bill did not set in the way it was supposed to. And the American people need to stop being entitled, grow a pair of balls, and learn to get some responsibility under their teeth. People from the 1960s had a higher responsibility rate than you are now. You look at yourself in the future. You look at yourself, look at your kids for the rest of the future. You don't want your kids getting beat up by a punk kid with some apple juice on the playground. Get some responsibility, gain them up, work them up, steroids, all of it. Get something done, okay? Something. And as well, with that being said, I think that as we grow more, hopefully we'll be able to do something when I become president. Hopefully we'll be able to get something there. Teaching abstinence to our kids and teaching things like that is not just, and I haven't got to the moral thing about it yet. It's not even that it's, so far, S-Man, you and me have been talking. I've been talking a big factual game the whole entire time. I really have not used like emotion at one, like really at all. I've been just fact, statistic. But if I went to the moral argument, would be to begin with is that as a society, when we start to, promote and realize the significance of an individual life form, that once the DNA is intrinsic, it's different. It's never going to come back after you're done with it. It will never come back ever again. DNA different. Unless cloning begins. That's a whole different story. But still, it's going to go away. For right now, it's gone. And I think what we need to start realizing as a society is that the intrinsic values that make the country the way it is all begin with that one piece of DNA. And if we don't protect it, then who else will? Closing statement.
All right.
Presidential material, 2036. I go on.
All right. So this debate has been a little bit of an off one in comparison to the other debates that I have typically hosted, but Rich had requested this, a conversation/debate or whatever you want to call it, with the S-Man. And so I thought I would provide the opportunity to have it moderated on my channel. Since he so kindly asked for a moderator. S-Man did not care so much because he didn't think it would get too aggressive, but ultimately it did not. I would like to thank both of you guys for a decent debate. Certainly much more decent than Saturdays.
I've been trying to get to some debates. I don't want to. I don't know. Maybe it's, I like debates with people who can have a civil discussion. I like when people, I hate when people disregard claims. Facts. Like I hate that. It's just mind boggling to me how the left does it over and over again. It's disregarding facts.
So okay. Before you get on to a ramble, Rich, I am going to close it up now. But yes, thank you all for watching this debate. And
I would like to announce something.
Yes.
Since Rich will be running for president in 2036, I, S-Man Speaks, I'm declaring my candidacy for the Libertarian nomination for president in 2040. So Rich will likely be Grover Cleveland, except he'll serve his second
What?
non-consecutive term in
And
2048.
I'd like to make an announcement too. My announcement is that I will be running for governor in the 2020s and then going to presidency in 2036. So vote for me if you live in Columbus, Ohio. Do what you gotta do.
Okay, my live stream has become a broadcasting channel officially for people's political
Follow me on
nominations
SoundCloud. SoundCloud,
and
guys.
campaigns. But anyway, as I was saying, no, Brandon, you are fake news, and well, at least on the zoophilia part, anyways. But anyway, so thank you all for watching this debate. As always, I am willing to take up any requests for me to be a moderator for people's debates. But yes, this has been another Strike Force debate. I am the Dark Conservatarian, your host and moderator. This has been S-Man Speaks and Right Side of History, aka Rich. And I'll see you all next time. God bless.